What's up, everybody? Welcome to West 3 Raw TV. All right, a little bit of a different video here today. So I'm actually on the road again. Last week was the Junior Nationals. This week I'm at the Maryland State Championships in Baltimore, Maryland. Maryland State Championships East Coast Classic. I've been coming to the show and I've competed in it since like 2007 or 8 or something like that. And actually this weekend I am the head judge. So I'm here at the hotel getting things wrapped up. We're going to do check-ins in a little bit. And I saw this video, of course, by Nick Trigilli, which Nick's stuff pops up all the time. And Nick's a buddy of mine. We get along really well. And it was about Chris Bumstead. Now, I want to preempt this video before I get too far into it, that I have talked to Chris Bumstead in person. And him and I, there was a video I put up a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now at this point, that that his wife, Courtney, actually took some offense to. And he had contacted me via Instagram. We had a conversation about it. And I've talked to him in person. I told him, I don't really make those type of videos anymore. Stuff that I don't really know that much about. So I'm sure when he sees his name in this video, he'd be like, what the fuck, Jerry's up to the same shit again. That's not what this video is. So before we get deep into it, I want to just say that this is not a video talking about Chris in a negative way or talking about his dosages in a negative way, because the video I saw, and then I went to watch Chris's video about, this year's prep for the Olympia, and he was talking about drug dosages. And Nick Trigilli's video basically was saying that he doesn't believe that Chris is being honest about his dosages. And while I agree with what Nick is saying in general, being at the Olympia level, the dosages are much higher than, 1 cc of test a week or, more than 2 compounds and stuff like that. While I agree with that, in general, like mostly I definitely agree with that. I look at this a little bit differently. So first of all, I want to give Chris Bumstead some props, right? I want to give him the thumbs up for even openly talking about the fact that he takes any compounds. That's the missing fact that we're seeing here right now. Up till now, a lot of the people we're seeing talking about these compounds and stuff like that are retired bodybuilders or retired athletes. So they're talking about stuff that they did X, Y, and Z back in the day. They're no longer involved in it, right? So they figure when I get out of this sport, I can say the things that I wanted to say then that I couldn't say then, and it makes it a little safer. And I look at it like, look, Chris had a lot of balls to put it out there. Like, he put himself on the line saying that basically I'm the reigning Mr. Olympia, classic physique, and I'm using compounds. And I was like, shit, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't see a lot of people doing that. Like, he took a big chance, and I'm like, he's at least being honest about the fact that he's taking compounds, right? That got completely lost in the whole discussion. I'm like, he doesn't have to talk about any of this stuff. And he talks about his diet being on and his training being on year round, which, I mean, let's be real, he's the classic Mr. Olympia, so that's the way it has to be now, right? But he didn't have to say a fucking word about any of those drugs, and he did. Now, I do think he was being super responsible with the fact that he even said, like, I don't want to say things because I don't want people to repeat it or go out there and do it. And I agree 110%. Like, the problem is so many people look up to Chris at this point that they're going to think whatever he does, I need to do. And if I do that, I'll be like him. I'll look like him, etc. So he's in the point of having a responsibility where the things that he says, even if he says, like, don't do this, people take things out of context and take it and just fucking run with it. So he even disclaims, like, look, I don't want to do this because I don't want them to go out and try what I'm doing or do what I'm doing. But he went beyond that and was honest the fact that he takes compounds. I think we should definitely give him the thumbs up for that, right? That is something to be admired in this day and age where there's so many fake natties out there. People are like, I don't take anything. I take testosterone or whatever the fuck is going on. And he's out there telling the truth. I'll be honest with you. I used to look at The Rock that way, where I just don't like The Rock anymore. I got my own reasons for that, but it has nothing to do with the fact of whether he's a liar or not. But I remember The Rock talking about, in an interview where they asked him about steroids. Now, let's be fucking real. I'm 46. I think The Rock is like 49 or 50. He's definitely older than I am, right? And he keeps getting better and bigger and harder, and he's got a quality to his physique. The Rock ain't just taking some fucking test and deca. That's just, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't care. The Rock never in his whole fucking life had the look he has now, and he does not have the genetics to have this look. Nobody in his fucking family has the genetics to have the look that he has now without drugs. Let's just be 100% fucking real and throw that out there, right? So I know that The Rock, when you have people ask him, he's like fucking 6'5" or something like that. And he looks like he could absolutely jump in a classic physique. He's got the big legs for such a tall guy, right? He carries the mass, and now he's lean as fuck, right? He's got the 3D everywhere, the fucking heart. I mean, look, no, there's no fucking way that he got that good in his older age when he's been training since he was like 12, right? So let's throw that out there. So The Rock, at least when he came out in an interview and they asked him, have you ever used steroids, right? That was the question. Have you ever used steroids? And he looked in the camera and he said, I tried them once when I was 18. He's like, I figured, I'm going to play football, yada, yada, yada. He's like, so I tried them. He's like, and I didn't like what they did to me. He goes, I didn't see the point of it. So I said, I'm not into it. I don't like it. So I had stopped and I never did them again. Now, that is a 100 complete bullshit lie. Now, I do believe maybe he had stopped taking them off cycles, but he was a big puffy guy, right? And then you see him in stuff like that, the movie, the Gridiron Gang, where he was downsized, or there was the other one that was the one who was a football player, but he was like Joe. I don't remember the name of it. He was like a pro football player, he was like the quarterback, and he had like this little daughter he didn't know about that showed up. Downsized, right? That's The Rock, like not on stuff. He wasn't trying to downsize. He was a fucking quarterback. He was a football player in like the NFL in the movie. Why the fuck would he downsize to be so skinny? If anything, he looked better the way he is, well, not necessarily now, but a little more muscle on him. That, when he was doing those Disney movies and he downsized, the Tooth Fairy too, right? If you go back and watch these movies, that's more of what the natural Rock look is, right? That big puffy look, I feel like that was definitely Test and Deck and those things that make you puffy. But the look he has now, get the fuck out of here. He's loaded. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't buy it. And you got to be a fucking idiot if you don't believe that. But at the very least, The Rock was honest and said, I did take them before. Which is a step in the right direction, guys. That's progress. Because for so many years, we had people out there, that guy who plays fucking Thor, get the fuck out of my face. That dude is absolutely geared to the fucking max. The dude that played in that fucking vampire movie that my wife likes, he's a werewolf, the young kid, right? That kid, they were going to give the part to someone else for the next movie when they made the sequel because they wanted somebody to look more mature, that had more muscle. The kid gained 35 pounds in a few months, got the role. He looked jacked. He looked amazing. As soon as the movie's over, he dropped all the weight and went back to being skinny. Like these actors, like fucking all of these actors that put that muscle on. Hugh Jackman, get the fuck out of my face. Hugh Jackman's a string being this fucking big. Well, I took protein shakes and lifted 3 hours a day. Well, how the fuck did your body recover from all that training and build that muscle? You can't train for 3 hours a fucking day on a frame like that, put on that much muscle, and say it had nothing to do with any drugs, right? So there's a lot of guys out there that you just fucking lie. And I understand why. It's illegal. It doesn't make any sense to fucking go out there and say, hey, I'm doing all this illegal shit for a movie, right? It doesn't make any sense. They fucking lie. I get it. But then you got guys like The Rock and now Bumstead, who's an active competitor at the top of the mountain, right? At the Mr. Olympia Classic Physique, who has followers, like his following is fucking bigger than 99% of the fucking bodybuilders on the planet. At least coming out and saying, this is part of the sport. This is what I do. And I'm taking it seriously with my health. That was what I got out of the video when I watched Chris's video was, yes, I use these compounds, but I'm so neurotic about my health that I'm making sure that none of my blood work is going fucking crazy and then I get healthy and then I come off. When he said that, I was like, holy shit. So yeah, there's like a weight cap that he can't go over and he doesn't really need to be. Look, Chris is not going to get beat by a bigger guy. If someone's better, they're better, but bigger is not necessarily going to beat him. He's going to be right where he needs to be and he doesn't have to stay on all year round. So things that he was saying, I'm like, that's the most responsible things I've heard come out of an athlete's mouth in probably the last 10 years. So if anything, we should be thanking Bumstead for being truthful and honest and giving these kids, which, let's be real, there's a lot of young guys that are following him, that want to follow in his footsteps. And he's out there praising blood work and preaching blood work, right? He's out there even preaching things of your diet that, other people like a macros and macro, calories and calories. He's saying, look, I can't eat these certain foods because of, I had a genetic test done. I need to do away with these foods so that I can digest better. Like, he's taking things to a level that shows these kids that there's more to it than just taking a bunch of gear and going to the gym and pushing weights, right? It's like systematic, right? There's a whole other aspect of planning that I think gets left out with many of the pros. Like, they just talk about, well, you got to train, you got to eat big to get big. I get all that shit, like all the meathead stuff, but it was more of an intellectual thing that Chris was talking about. And I'm like, dude, in my personal opinion, I think what Chris did was really open up the avenue for other athletes in the sport to talk about what's being done in a responsible way and preach that blood work should be done. Man, I grew up with people not getting blood work because they didn't want to go to the doctors and have their asses chewed out, right? Nowadays, you have places like Titan Medical, who I work with. They don't give a fuck what you're on. They're just there to give you your blood work, and they're just there to help you. They're not there to criticize you or talk down to you or anything like that. So you have options now where you can get blood work done without going to a regular doctor that'll fuck with you. And you have people like Chris Bumstead telling you you should get your blood work done often, right? So you have people preaching health then other places like Titan that are willing to help you with your health, that is a light years ahead of where it was 15 years ago, right? So if anything, I feel like Chris Bumstead and these companies, they're moving things in the right direction to keep people competitive and doing what they love to do, and they're involved in the sport, they want to be Mr. Olympia, etc., but do it where they know what the fuck is going on with their body and do it in a healthier way. It may not be the most healthy way. I mean, they're in a sport, right? So in a sport, look, sometimes health goes out the window to a certain degree, but your off season, you should definitely take your health seriously, right? You should definitely be taking the compounds and stuff that you use as little as you can possibly use until it doesn't work anymore, and you have to increase it. That was what he was preaching. I take this much, and hopefully if I'm healthy enough with my blood work, I may increase it, right? I'm listening to this, I'm like, there's somebody who strategically planned it, right? And did it according to whether or not his health will allow him to do it. Well, these other guys are doing it blindly, they got fucked up, and everybody's like, oh, see, the sport's bad. Like, no, you have to be responsible for yourself. And that was another thing I got out of Chris's video was he preaches responsibility. Be responsible for yourself. It is not the league that you're competing in. It's not your friends at the gym. It's nobody's responsibility what you do with those drugs and your blood work except for your own. So if you do something crazy and fuck yourself up, that's your own fault. If you don't do your blood work and you get fucked up because you're not paying attention, that's your own fault. Like, at least he's out there preaching the things that I think are the right things to preach. In essence, I was like, I get what Nick Trigili's saying. I get that 100%. But at the same time, there's two opposite ends of the spectrum. There's two sides of every coin, right? Well, instead of looking at that negative side of the coin and be like, well, I think he's lying, etc., why not look at it and say, look, what he did really did push the sport ahead and give these kids a lot of things to think about moving forward, and makes them realize if you don't do this stuff, you could hurt yourself, right? Chris is the one out there preaching that stuff, not retired bodybuilders that have done mega amounts of gear their whole lives and never said shit, or been asked and they said, no, I never took anything or whatever. And then when they're retired, say like, oh, I did this back in the day and don't do this now. They go, you got, a lot of times the young kids look at these older guys and go, you're the old washed up old heads. You guys don't know shit. Like, that's back in the day. Like, you don't understand anything about what's going on right now. But now you have Chris Bumstead, who's the figure of classic physique, right? He's the guy. He's the fucking man as far as that goes. Out there talking openly about things, preaching health and teaching these kids it's not a fucking joke to be played with. So in essence, I'm like, look, I hope Chris does more videos like that. I don't mean just about drugs, but I don't watch a lot of Chris's stuff because there's tons of shit out there and I don't have the time to watch it. But I hope that he has been and he continues to do videos like he did, specifically preaching the positives of the sport, right? And how to do it the safest way you can and the healthiest way you can to not fuck yourself up. But at the same time, maybe he's not fully honest. Maybe he is. I don't know. Like, I'm not there. I don't know what he takes and what he doesn't. But the whole point is he didn't have to do any of that shit, right? He's not responsible for you, me, or any of the other kids watching. But he's taken it upon himself to give himself that responsibility to say, hey, I'm at the top of the fucking food chain over here. I'm Mr. Olympia in the classic physique. Therefore, it's my responsibility to give the right information to you guys to understand what's going on and to help you guys. Again, he doesn't have to do any of this. He could be like Dorian and just win and go away and win and go away and keep doing it, win all of his Olympias and then fucking walk away. He could do that, right? And nobody would ever think anything of it. But now being in the spotlight and having the following that he has and having the power that he has, I think he's doing the right thing with it. So be aware, guys. Like, there are maybe guys that are not fully honest, 100% honest. I don't know. But if they're honest at all about saying they're taking compounds, take that for what it's worth, listen to what they're saying, and don't start trying to pick it apart. It is what it is, guys. It's a sport that crazy shit goes on. When somebody's preaching health, that's somebody to listen to. BioStrengthTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BioStrength.com is a blog. It's the Health First Bicep, and we are out.